Morning, guys. We're here with Jade Holing today on our third episode of Through the Viewfinder South Africa. Thank you, Jade, for taking the time to sit with us today.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
5 years ago, I started pursuing my photography career, like seriously. And you were the first guy that actually took the time to teach me some etiquette in the market. So much appreciated. If it wasn't for people like you that willing to help upcoming photographers, it would have taken me way longer to get to where we are today. Just tell us a bit about yourself. How did you get into photography?
How much time have we got? It's a bit of a long story, really, because photography was not something I actively pursued. It was more a matter of rolling the dice, and the numbers frequently came up photography, and that's kind of how it's been. So going right back to the start when I was still in high school, which was a lifetime ago, I needed a bit of extra income, and it just so happened that my mother was the personal assistant to a director of a chain of photo lab franchises, and now we're talking the days of still film, right? And so during the school holidays, I think I was in standard 9 at the time, grade 11, I think it is now. I just worked at the photo lab during the school holidays. And I remember what could be probably seen as my first photographic job was I got given a camera and said, go take photos of Father Christmas and the kids. And it's interesting though, because at the time, my relationship to cameras back then was one of selling them. I never in my wildest imagination could have foreseen where it would go to. I never imagined that photography would be something that I could classify as my career one day. Back then we didn't have the internet, and so our exposure to career opportunities was restricted to basically what you saw in the local newspaper in terms of jobs that were available, right? So, I mean, probably the only thing I knew as a possible career in photography was like National Geographic photographers, which I think is possibly, maybe, arguably every photographer's wet dream. Anyway, so then after school, I went to go work at the photo lab first time, full time. And that was really also just a matter of it being a job. It was available and there was nothing really else on offer. So that's what I did. And I excelled as a salesperson. So much so that very quickly I became a manager of one of the stores, and within a year I became manager of their flagship store and radically increased their turnover. And as an 18-year-old, I was managing half a dozen people, and I did really well at that. And so I thought a salesperson is what I was. I can't imagine being a salesperson today. But anyway, there's lots of little in-between snippets, which I'm going to try and fast-track the story. I think after that, the next photographic-related job I had was being a sales rep, one of the suppliers to the retail for a wholesaler. I did that for a little while. And then I ventured off into the wilderness and explored all other kinds of things. I thought I wanted to become a graphic designer, so I explored that for a little bit. Then this opportunity came up to a friend of mine who worked for a pack shop company, and they were looking for somebody. And so I went to the interview, luckily landed the job. I convinced them that I'll be working right next to my friend. I'll very quickly learn what I need to learn. The truth of it is I went into that job knowing nothing about Apple Macs, because that's what I had to work on. I knew nothing about Photoshop, so I really was thrown into the deep end, but I had to learn very quickly. And that was my first exposure into the world of professional photographer. Obviously, I was in the role as a retoucher. I didn't even know that was what it was called, but I was a retoucher. And that is kind of, in hindsight, a blessing in terms of how I got into photography, because that was right at the onset of digital. But I had that skill set early on, many years ago, and it empowered me to be able to understand that clients aren't looking for photographs. They're looking for images. They're looking for images to tell a story. And so I very quickly understood that. I understood that to execute a final result was not just about being behind the camera. It was also about knowing how to bring in my art skills and refine the picture so that it's an image at the end that tells a story. And that served me really well. I got into working for myself in 2006, and I've been doing so ever since. And that's pretty much, in a nutshell, been the journey.
Saw your landscape photography. You feel that you're almost there. The barren landscape, the burnt grass fields, it's absolutely phenomenal.
I'd like to just mention something on that point. You talked about the emotions, right? I think that is something that I have tried to do all along, at least more consciously so in recent years, is that I'm trying to photograph or capture a feeling. You know, if I'm in an environment where I look at something and it holds my attention for longer than 2 seconds, something about that has left a feeling in me. And it's that which I'm trying to capture, not so much the thing in and of itself. You know, there's quite a bit of talk around editing. There's a lot of people that don't feel images should be edited, etc., etc. They say it's not real anymore. But the thing is, like, there's no way an image that you're looking is the thing of itself. It's a representation of. Cameras are amazing at that. What a miracle a camera is. So it never is the moment that was. It's a memory of that thing. And so, like, I'm all for editing and enhancing the experience of what it is that you're looking at so that it invokes more emotion in whoever's looking at the image.
Because that's a whole discussion for another day. There's so much of psychology actually behind photography. Because you see old people running out of burning buildings. First thing they grab is an album. If you go and visit your grandma in the old age home, what's on her bedside table? Albums. Photos is the memories that we keep. So it's a very deep psychological love, passion thing that you hold on to.
We could talk about that all day.
Yeah, no, definitely. What challenges do you face in your commercial photography, and how do you overcome them to meet client expectation?
Probably, in some cases, look, I deal a lot. So because I'm a commercial photographer, I deal mainly in the environment, in the business sector. And when I deal with agencies, they have a good understanding of what my job entails. But then there is a sector, if it leans a bit more to the public sector, they have no idea. And so helping people to understand why it is that what I do costs what it does is sometimes tricky. You know, there's this idea that you aim a camera towards something, click the button and that's it, which is not the case. And so to educate your market around why it is that what you do costs what it does, what's involved, and hope that they're interested. I suppose that's one of the challenges. On the opposite end of the spectrum, when you're dealing with one of my pet peeves is new art directors that do not allow you to just do your thing. The experienced art directors, those that have been around for a while, don't get involved. They know that you know what you're doing and they leave you to do your thing. And they'll always provide you with a clear brief and then trust your expertise to deliver the results they're looking for.
Being a commercial photographer, you shoot a lot of inanimate objects. Do you miss human subjects? Do you shoot a lot of them?
I think both have their rewards. Inanimate objects tend to not look over your shoulder when you're editing and ask you to use the liquify tool. So inanimate objects, it's a very controlled environment. There's minimal factors to consider and you tend to have a more time to execute. Whereas when you're dealing with people it's interesting how often, I'm sure you've had it too, when people just do not like the way they look in photos, right? And I think that stems from the image that we know of ourselves largely sits in the mirror that we look at every morning, which flips you, right? It's a flip image of ourselves, and that's the idea we have of how we look. And so when we see a photo, how we actually look, I think there's a little bit of a moment in our brains where we're not sure about that image. And so, you know, capturing people in a way where they are satisfied is a challenge, which I appreciate. You know, like anything that challenges me, and I think that should be hopefully true for anybody in this business, you need to be challenged.
Yeah.
Because that's how you grow. So, I mean, I think I've also become, as I've grown older, like the flavor of people that I surround myself has become a lot more specific. You know what I mean? Like as I get older, the kind of people I surround myself with are important to me. And so just dealing with a lot of people all the time mentally challenges me. So fortunately, that's not my situation. I shoot a lot of inanimate products, items, and so my dealings with people are limited, which I think I'm grateful for.
Okay, cool. Jade, can you share some insights into your creative process when working with a commercial project? What is as soon as you get the project, how do you start it? What's step one? Just a brief.
I would love to say that there is a very clear, distinct recipe, but there isn't. I think it also really depends on what the project is. And I think I've been doing this now for such a long time. There's very little conscious thought process as to how I'm going to tackle it. Obviously, if it's something that I've never done before or something of that nature, there is research involved. Fortunately for the internet, there is so much resources available in terms of showing you how to do any particular thing. So, you know, a little bit of research, some inspiration as to how other people have done it. And there's a great little book that I've got that's called Steal Like an Artist. And that name is deceptive. But when is an artwork ever like truly original? We all gain inspiration from what has come before us. So I'm all for that. You know, see what other people have done, learn about how they did it. And so that's sometimes a component. Because of my editing abilities, I'm very mindful of that when I'm shooting, because I'm also mindful of not wasting people's time on set. There is often, and I don't believe capturing it right in camera is 100% accurate. I think obviously you want to do the best that you can in camera, but I'm very aware of what I'm able to do in the edit. You know, like it's interesting because I think the client sometimes feels like what they're paying you for, it needs to take a certain period of time. They're not sitting with me behind the computer at home or at the office, seeing the time it takes to edit. So it's a bit of a tricky balance, you know, feeling like they're giving the clients the experience where they feel that this is worth the money they're spending. Because there's a lot of costs that come with studio, catering, additional extras, help. You know, there's a lot of costs that come with the studio time, whereas if I can cut back on that and rather spend the time on the computer, that's how I do it. I'm not saying obviously that is the way it should go, but that's just my considerations. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Jade, as an established photographer, what would your advice be to young and upcoming photographers that's just got their matric results last year?
Change direction, don't do it. No, I'm kidding. Look, I would love it if I had less competition. So that's kind of the gist behind the joke. There is a lot of people that pursue photography, and what a blessing that is, because I think photography is such a gift to the world. Social media, we get bombarded by millions of images daily. Not maybe as an individual, but so much images get uploaded that we take them for granted. So I think the pursuit of photography is a beautiful thing, and I'm grateful that so many more people have access to it. But it does mean in the professional arena that we have a lot more competition. So I think that's something to be mindful of as an upcoming wannabe photographer. The other thing I want to say is that I don't know that I'm in a position to give advice. I can only share my experience because I think each person's journey is their own. And we're all going to learn things in different ways. So I just want to mention that. But some of the things that I have learned along the way is to stay humble, remain teachable, because it doesn't matter how good you become at your craft, there is always someone who's better than you who can teach you something. So I think that's important. People ask me, what is the best image that you've ever done? And I always answer the one I've yet to take. You know, and obviously I have some images I've taken that maybe tend to be my favorites, but I allow myself to be open to still do better. I think that's a key important factor. The other thing is learn the business side of photography. I can't emphasize that enough. You know, there's so much more to photography, being a successful photographer in terms of a career. So much more than just being behind your camera. If you're able to get yourself a position as an apprentice to a full-time photographer, I'm not hiring, so don't even ask. But if you're able to do that, I think that's first prize, because you're going to learn things that no classroom or textbook is ever going to be able to teach you. If you can't get that right, use the internet. There's so much available in terms of resource on how to do things, and stay busy. Stay busy in those quiet times where you're not getting the work. Look at what other people are doing. See if you can execute that too, because in the efforts of trying to do that, you're going to learn so much. Always stay willing to learn. Yeah.
Jade, thank you very much for your time today.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
It's an honor. Thank you.
And all the best for you in the future.
Thank you so much, Martin.
Cool. Thank you.
Cool.